It run most of the cities that are in bad shape. We have many cities in great shape, too, by the way. I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places. And we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. But I want to salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid.
Using American cities as training grounds for the United States military. That was part of President Trump's partisan address yesterday to hundreds of America's top military leaders at a Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. Joining us now, MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Herdling. Good morning to you both. General, I'll start with you and just your reaction. I'm sure you've talked to some of your old colleagues, maybe who are in the room or some who just watched at home. What was the reaction to that spectacle yesterday?
Yeah, Willie, I did talk to a few, many people in that room I've served with. I didn't retire that long ago, so some of those senior members were junior members when I was still in the service. What was interesting is it came about in two parts. First of all, Secretary Hegseth's address. I took notes as he spoke, as I was watching it. And just some of the things that I made bullet points about were Liberation Day, kill things and break people, or kill people and break things, war crimes, Geneva Convention elimination, rules of engagements are unnecessary, suggesting women can't meet the standards, returning to the days of drill sergeants smoking recruits during basic training, suggesting the elimination of IG actions, especially as he's being investigated for the use of signal apps by those IGs. Hawking his own book at the end, The War on Warriors, I've read, and it's a compilation of thoughts from a disgruntled soldier who has very little understanding of strategic implications of various actions. Then when it turned to the president, you've already addressed this, meandering. Just all sorts of issues, much like the UN speech he gave. So many things to talk about from that speech, but the war from within, as you just mentioned, and putting soldiers on American streets to train how to react to different enemies from within were two of the highlights that I wrote down. And it was just a combination of two things that I believe we're leading to what we might see next. And the other thing I'd say is President Trump thrives on applause and cheering and interactions with an audience. And when he didn't get that and instead got quiet professionalism from the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in the audience, that likely rattled them from the very beginning. And that silence wasn't disrespect. It was restraint and discipline and adherence to the oath of office. Yesterday was, to me, a collective reminder of our professional culture that we have in the military that transcends politics. It was on full display, and it was interesting to watch from both sides of the audience.
It was the oath to the Constitution, not to the man standing in front of them. So can you speak, General, just for people watching this morning who have so much coming at them 24 hours a day, why this you view as so unusual and so dangerous to be talking about using American cities as, quote, training grounds for the American military and having the United States military go in and effectively do domestic policing of gangs and whatever else Donald Trump wants them to do?
Well, primarily, Willie, is because it's illegal. And it violates our oath of office to defend the Constitution, which says the military is not to be used. Specifically, that was put in the Constitution against securing American streets, other than when there is an insurrection within the Republic, which President Lincoln saw. But the indications are people are asking us to prepare to do that. So that means there's measures afoot to try and make that happen. Because I don't see it, and you can bet that all the 400 or 800 people in that audience, the generals and the senior enlisted advisors, don't see it either. And many of them have seen conflict. They have been involved in war. They know what it's like, and they also know you don't take up arms against innocent civilians, especially ones in the United States who are executing their First Amendment rights of free speech and protesting against.
The president yesterday gave a speech to some of the most senior military leaders in the U.S. Armed Forces. It was not, though traditionally those speeches are sort of apolitical, this one very much wasn't, largely akin to a Trump rally speech. But we wanted to highlight one line in particular to get your response, in which he says that he told the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, that the military should use American cities as training grounds. What is your response to that, sir?
This is so against the American way. For 200 and however many years we've had this great republic. The military protects us from foreign enemies, and our local police departments, sheriffs, and some federal agencies like the FBI, which they're decimating now for political purposes. He's trying to make it into his attack dog, protect us here. This is backfiring. When they tried to do this in California and they thought it was going to be such a winner, the Californians across the board erupted and said, we don't want this. You're creating it worse. In Oregon, which he just said he wanted to go into, the governor said, we don't need you. If you want to help augment the kind of dollars we need for police and for sheriffs, do it. So this is totally against the American grain. And it's one example of many that they're moving to an autocracy away from a democracy. In dictatorships, the federal military goes into the cities to do bad things. In this case, we should resist it in every step of the way, and the American people are. Nobody likes this except a few hardcore people.
All right, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, thank you so much. We got through an entire interview,
and Joe,
without talking about the New York Yankees.
Today's not the day to do that because this shutdown is so serious for the American people. But I just want to thank you for bringing up that lie. That's the only way they think they're going to win is by lying, and we are going to pierce that lie, pierce it, because it is such an effort.
Against the government.
General, I don't know whether you've seen the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. I'm now holding it up on camera. There's a photo shot of the front rows of many of the former members, your former friends in the military, sitting there watching and listening to the spectacle yesterday. And I, too, spoke to several of your colleagues, former colleagues, yesterday. And the word I kept hearing from them was embarrassment. Because if you look at that picture and you listen or have viewed what happened yesterday in Quantico, you saw myriad numbers of Silver Star awards. You saw myriad Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, Combat Infantry badges, and they were being lectured on how to do push-ups and lose weight and shave. And it was truly mortifying. But the larger question is, going forward, what happens to the military in this country when there's so much disarray within the building, the Pentagon, where the Defense Department is housed, and various components of the military around the globe, with this internal dissension that you can seemingly feel when you witness an event like yesterday?
Yeah, it struck me too, Mike, that when you look at those faces, it's what I predicted when I was on the show the other day, and that you're going to get poker faces and a stoicism that was reflective of professionalism. But truthfully, those individuals will leave that room or left that room yesterday, and they'll start discussing and analyzing how they can implement some of the lawful orders that they got. Okay, great. We can buck up the standards. We can take a look at the kinds of things to get some soldiers, not all, certainly not even the majority, back in better shape. Take a look at what our ranks look like. But there were also soldiers and all ranks of services in that audience that said, wait a minute, when they were writing down down the same kind of checklist that I was writing down, saying, wait a minute, we can't do that, or we shouldn't do that, or this is a true violation of what we are as professionals, or hey, I've got women in my ranks who are performing admirably. Why should I kind of lump them all together like the secretary did? Or I'm certainly now going to debate with myself, what am I going to say if I'm asked to go on the street and conduct illegal actions? And I guarantee you that the people in that audience will not execute illegal orders. We've been saying that for a long time. But at the same time, all of them, not only were they personally embarrassed, but they were embarrassed for their services that had to, sit in that audience and listen to this kind of stuff. That's the worst part of all this. There's a saying in the military that's a great leadership dictum. You praise in public and you discipline in private. This was a disciplinary approach in public with cameras so the whole nation could see. And it was an attempt at separating the military institution from the people that they defend. And I don't think it worked very well, but I'm sure there's a lot of people questioning what the military will do next. I'm sure of what they will do next. They will make sure they don't follow illegal orders and maintain their
job.
What you saw at Quantico was not a routine presidential address. It was a warning. Donald Trump stood before the highest ranks of the military and declared that America's cities should be used as training grounds for war. Not against foreign enemies, against our own citizens. He pointed to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. He called them unsafe. He said they were run by radical left Democrats. He mocked governors as stupid. Then he promised the military itself would straighten them out. That's not law enforcement. Trump told his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, that soldiers should prepare for combat inside American streets. He framed this as a war from within, against enemies from within. The Constitution is clear. The military defends the nation from foreign threats, not from the people it is sworn to serve. To turn soldiers inward is illegal, let alone hugely wrong. Inside that room were tons of decorated generals, men and women with Purple Hearts, Silver Stars, combat experience across the world. They sat in silence watching this, not out of respect, but probably out of restraint, out of discipline. They remembered their oath to the Constitution, not to a man. And that silence spoke louder than any random applause ever could. Retired General Mark Hertling called it dangerous. He said no soldier can take up arms against innocent civilians. He said the proposals themselves broke the faith with the American tradition and the rule of law. Others described what they felt in one word: embarrassment. Embarrassed that the commander-in-chief treated them as props in a political rally. Embarrassed that their professionalism was misused in whatever this was. Chuck Schumer put it plainly: in democracies, the military defends against foreign enemies. In dictatorships, it's turned inward to crush dissent. Trump is asking the military to play that role, to police American streets, to intimidate citizens and civilians and anyone else they come across. Imagine soldiers in our streets. And here's the danger to you. If Trump can send the military into whatever cities he wants under the guise of training, nothing is stopping him from using that power to silence his opponents. Today he says Chicago. Tomorrow could be literally any city, any protest, any neighborhood. Do not let this be normalized. Do not accept the claim that this is about security.